Hey, you want to hear my Jolly Green Giant imitation? Ho, ho, ho. I think I nailed it.
This is Mac OS Ken.
A banner earnings call ahead, a strange night at the White House, and the first 20th anniversary episode. It is Monday, the 26th of January, 2026. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform for growing your presence online. Get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain with offer code MacOSKen at squarespace.com/MacOSKen. This show is also sponsored by Copilot Money, designed to make your money feel clear, calm, and fully yours. That starts with the Copilot Money dashboard, letting you view new transactions, budget categories, recurring charges, and more. Copilot Money features AI-powered spending categorization, though you can tweak those to exactly what you need, thanks to fully customizable rules and notifications. Maybe the best part, though, Copilot Money is everywhere you are, with apps for iPhone, iPad, and the Mac, or access Copilot Money on the web. If you're online, you are connected to your financial life. Named Editor's Choice in Apple's App Store and featured by Apple as a smart way to save money, you can try it for no money at try.copilot.money/MacOSKen. That's where you go to get your 2-month free trial with offer code MacOSKen. Start the new year with clarity with Copilot Money. Get a 2-month free trial with offer code MacOSKen when you sign up at try.copilot.money/MacOSKen. Copilot Money. Your money, beautifully organized, now across every device at try.copilot.money/MacOSKen. Apple is set to announce December quarter earnings later this week, and they are expected to be the biggest ever, according to Seeking Alpha. On the last earnings call, Apple execs forecast year-on-year revenue growth of 10% to 12%. If those numbers hold, the company's looking at revenue of between $136.7 billion and $139.2 billion last quarter. That would be way ahead of the record high $124.3 billion in revenue set in the same quarter a year ago. Overall, the street's looking for revenue of $138.47 billion on earnings per share of $2.67. That would beat the tar out of the previous record of $2.40 set in the same quarter a year ago. As always, of course, the real question will be, what will you have done for me lately a few months from now? Apple's guidance for the next quarter and whatever questions execs deign to answer about pricing in the current memory crunch will likely be seen as more important than recent Christmas memories. Things come to those who wait. The Cupertino company is set to report December quarter numbers, the first quarter of Apple's 2026 fiscal year, this Thursday, the 29th of January. Numbers will drop by press release after the close of trading, 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern. Then at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, Apple execs will get on the phone with financial analysts offering whatever color and commentary they feel like offering. You can listen live as that happens on Apple's site. It'll be made available as a podcast a few hours later, and of course, I will recap what I can right here on Friday. Hey, remember the story a few weeks back that had iOS 26 adoption in the toilet? Back on the 8th of January, 9 to 5 Mac had stats from Statcounter showing an absolutely abysmal adoption rate for the mobile operating system. According to those, 4 months after its release, iOS 26 was only in use by about 16% of iPhone users, while iOS 18 remained over 60%. For the same time last year, over 60% of users were on some version of iOS 18 by Statcounter's count, roughly 4 times as many as were said to be on iOS 26 in the same time frame. Now, I think we knew that was going to end up being inaccurate. That was partly because another firm had iOS adoption approaching 60%, and partly because, well, it just sounded dumb, didn't it? I won't say it was dumb, but it was incorrect, according to an updated Statcounter count. Cult of Mac ran a piece over the weekend that says an Apple privacy measure led to the Statcounter miscount. According to the piece, Apple deliberately misidentifies devices that run iOS 26 to make it more difficult to fingerprint iPhone users. Fingerprinting uses a combination of data to identify individual devices. If an advertising company can fingerprint devices, the cult says the ad company can track users and serve them targeted ads, bypassing Apple's app tracking transparency. So basically, it sounds like most devices running iOS 26.blank were identifying themselves as running something else, messing up Statcounter's count. They got a new count now. Without saying what changed in their methodology, Cult of Mac says the firm shows adoption of iOS 26. something at 52.6%. That is still a little below normal, but not as crazy as the previously reported 16%. While the cult gets any lingering skepticism around Statcounter's counting, rival tracker Telemetry Dex sees similar numbers. That firm tracks iOS 26 adoption at 54.8%, close enough to count as confirmation in the cult estimation. Transferring Apple Cash instantly to your bank account is going to cost more soon. Yay! Mac Rumor says Apple sent out an email late last week letting Apple Cash users know that the percentage charge for transferring cash post-haste is going from 1.5% to 1.7. To illustrate, the piece says using instant transfer to deposit $1,000 from Apple Cash to a bank account currently requires users to pay a $15 fee, for example, but that will increase to $17. That'll take effect on the 18th of February. There is a floor and, good news, a ceiling for the charges. Instant transfer charges come in at a minimum of 25 cents according to Apple's email, and a maximum of $25. Why? As they say in Moulin Rouge, because they can. The email offers no justification for the increase. It's just a thing that's happening, you know. If cash is not needed immediately, Apple's email says users can still transfer money to their bank accounts using ACH. That takes 1 to 3 business days, but comes with no additional fee. The weirdest story of the weekend involves the White House and probably Apple CEO Tim Cook. On Saturday, the same day that an ICU nurse who worked for the VA was killed for trying to help a woman who'd been pushed to the ground by some masked member of some indeterminate federal police force. Yet on that same day, the White House hosted movie night. The Hollywood Reporter says the event featured the first screening of Melania. That is a $59 million Amazon-funded documentary about First Lady Melania Trump, covering her doings from the 2025 presidential campaign to Inauguration Day. Now here's where it gets weird. Here's where it starts to get weird. The Reporter report says the event, which has not been promoted or advertised, is taking place in the East Room of the White House on Saturday. Guests include director Brett Ratner, Queen Rania of Jordan, Zoom CEO Eric Yuan, Apple CEO Tim Cook, New York Stock Exchange CEO Lynn Martin, AMD CEO Lisa Su, Mike Tyson, socialite and fiat heiress Aziz Angeli, self-help guru Tony Robbins, and photographer Ellen von Unworth. Who was actually in attendance? Who can say? Some reports list Cook as having been there. No one has said he was not there, though he is conspicuously absent from some posts saying who had been. Here's where it gets weirder. While there are a few pictures from the event, none of them show anybody's faces except for the First Ladies. Another post from the Hollywood Reporter has pictures from the event of a popcorn machine and some lovely-looking candies. There are also pictures of people holding what appear to be gift boxes from the event, but they're shots of torsos. Like, there's a woman holding a purse and a gift box, photographed from her neck to her waist. A guy in the tux photographed from his neck to where his waist would be if the gift box wasn't blocking it. And a man and a woman holding hands, photographed from his shoulder to just below her waist, mandatory gift box included. Over on the Heil site, the First Lady did post a picture from the event. It was her speaking to a room full of people, all of whom were facing her. So she's facing the camera, we're looking at her face, and the backs of a lot of heads. You can definitely pick out the president because his hair is kind of unmistakable. And it looks like maybe a row behind the president and a couple of seats to his left. That white head of hair could belong to Tim Cook. I'm willing to say it probably does. Isn't it strange, though, that nobody who was there posted about it? You could say maybe the White House wants to keep it secret, but it's a movie premiere. And besides, Mike Tyson, Tony Robbins, anybody named Trump, these are not people one would consider camera shy. Maybe they thought it in bad taste to show such opulent celebration on the day federal police dogpiled a VA nurse before shooting him 10 times, or such opulent celebration while millions waited for one of those once-in-a-century winter storms we seem to get every winter, but they did show the trappings of celebration. Just not the celebrants. Tell you what, I've got a crisp Abraham Lincoln for the financial analyst who burns his or her question on this week's earnings call to ask Tim what he thought of the movie. I might even go as high as a Hamilton. More stuff in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Squarespace, the all-in-one platform for growing your presence online. Various social media platforms used to be great places to share your voice, your ideas, your business. Between algorithms and individuals that reward conflict above all else, are you sure that's the place for you? A great way to grow your presence online is with your own site, and a great way to build that is with Squarespace. It is easy to make a beautiful site with Squarespace, either with their library of professionally designed and award-winning templates, or with Blueprint AI. That's a Squarespace tool that helps you build a custom site in just a few steps. If your site is less about promoting a business than building one, they got tools for that too. Whether you're looking to sell services, songs, or physical stuff, the built-in analytics, monetization tools, and shipping options can help you on your way. See what you can do with Squarespace. Start your free trial today at squarespace.com/macOSKen. Then when you're ready to launch, use offer code MacOSKen to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. I've been a happy Squarespace user for years. Find out why. Go to squarespace.com/MacOSKen for a free trial, Then use offer code MacOSKen for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Squarespace, the all-in-one platform for growing your presence online. Get started today at squarespace.com/MacOSKen. Okay. This is technically the 20th anniversary edition of macOSKen. I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing 20 years ago today. Do you? There are a few things working against making a big deal about today, though. First, I don't know whether you can tell, but I'm still kind of sick. The special lady friend says it graduated from man flu to actual illness. Thank you? The second thing making it hard to make a big deal about today, it's today. It's hard to be all razzle-dazzle right now. People who used to listen to the checklist know that I have a friend who's a librarian in Minneapolis, which means I have a friend who right now is freaking out all the time. Not sleeping, having nightmares when she does. She knows multiple people who have had friends or family members snatched. That's the word she used, snatched. I have another friend who's a school administrator in another part of the country who's had ice spottings in their neck of the woods. All they're doing is their community service government job. Whatever. Between those two things, I reserve the right to make this year a celebration of 20 years of macOSKen. Not every day, obviously, but I don't know, maybe some special shows and happenings looking back, looking ahead, talking to friends. Speaking of which, I got two truly lovely physical pieces of mail from two of my oldest friends in podcasting this week. Allison Sheridan of the Nocilla Cast, online at podfeed.com, because why make it easy? Got a card from her, and got a card from Chuck Joyner of Mac Voices, online at macvoices.com, because why make it difficult? Chuck said, here's to 20 more years, begging the question, why does Chuck hate me? Richard Gunther of the Digital Media Zone, online at thedigitalmediazone.com. You see how this works, right, Allison? I love Allison Sheridan. She knows that. And Steve. Don't want to get in any trouble here. Anyway, Richard Gunther of the Digital Media Zone, online at thedigitalmediazone.com, wrote to me to say, 20 years. 20! I hope you are proud of the 20 years of news, commentary, and humor you've brought to this planet. I know I am truly appreciative of the time and soul that goes into your work. Thank you isn't sufficient. This may sound ridiculous, Ken, but literally, you make my life better. I'm certain I'm not alone. I want to be glib, but that's humbling. Do we have time for one more? I think we have time for one more. Andrew, a name I don't know. I mean, I know the name Andrew, but I don't know this Andrew. Anyway, Andrew wrote to me to say, hard to believe that I have started every morning for the last 20 years, generally in my car on the way to work with 15 minutes of your voice telling us about Apple news. It's been a part of our lives, outlasting my marriage, and apparently yours, judging from the commentaries on the show, your time living in Buffalo and now California, and I've moved from Michigan to Colorado in the meantime. Remembering my 4'0" kids imitating your voice when their ages were still in single digits, and now they have children and spouses of their own. Loading up your episodes on my white iPod Nano and plugging them into my car through the 3.5mm jack. Wow, I miss that iPod, come to think of it, he says. Listening to your childlike rant of, I want an iPhone back in 2006, and being so disappointed when it turned out to be a Motorola Rocker. All those memories through the past 2 decades. Well, I hate to correct you, Andrew, but the rant a year before the iPhone was announced was where is my iPhone? Embarrassing, but still viewable at youtube.com/kenray. Andrew continues. I was looking for the original email that you sent me and others when you were starting the show back in January 2006 to tell us to look and subscribe. I guess somehow you got an email from Scott's podcast, but then, of course, it could be the email when you had us all send birthday wishes to your mom. How's that for memories? Yeah, that was, right. I was poor and was looking for something I knew my mother would love for her birthday. I also knew that she didn't know what a podcast was. Few people did. It was the summer of 2005. So I was doing a daily podcast for Inside Mac, and I put out on the podcast for 4 days, I think, an email address that I had set up, a Yahoo address. And I just asked people to tell my mom happy birthday. It was never my intention to look at those emails or access that account. I just gave the username and password to my mom, and thanks, by the way, everybody, for not being obscene when you wrote to my mother. Then Scott and I had a falling out, prompted by a move made by a salesperson he'd hired. I had no idea how to tell people how to find me, but I figured the 300-plus people who had taken time to write to my mom would probably be interested to know where I ended up. And from that was this born. Anyhow, Andrew continues, congrats to you. Hope your illness gets better soon. You and me both, pal. And wishing you 20 more years regaling us with Apple news, begging the question, why does Andrew hate me too? I will tell you I'm worried about the future of this show. Kidding aside. Let me just say to you and to the universe at large, I am open to additional possibilities. I've done shows. While doing macOS Ken, I was producing, Rob Black's radio show and Rob Black's TV show 20 years ago, 18 years ago, something like that. First couple of years I was doing this show, I was producing Rob Black stuff as well. I've done shows for the Mac Observer, for Secure Mac, for Roddenberry Entertainment. I've been in audio production for over 30 years, even if you take away the 2 years that I was out of it. I can't do anything for free at this point, but I would happily talk about doing additional stuff. So, listener, universe, you got my email, info@macosken.com. With that in mind, if you're not a Patreon subscriber, or a supporter rather, that would be a neat thing for you to be. I know there are people who do not like Patreon for various reasons. I am not one of those people. Yeah, I wish they didn't take a cut, but everybody takes a cut. I like the fact that they're set up and that they're, trusted. They've also actually reached out to me personally a time or two, which I really appreciate. So patreon.com/macosken. Something almost nobody asks anymore, but it's still a good thing for people to do. Tell a friend about this show. And finally, if you have never reviewed this show on Apple Podcasts and you want to write a 5-star review, that would be great. If you want to write a less than 5-star review, I'd say you probably have better things to do with your time. I actually hate the whole review thing on Apple Podcasts, but it's what we've got. So if you want to do a 5-star review, do that thing. It's you and me. Has been for 20 years. Here's to some more. And now I want a s'more. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Copilot Money. Get a 2-month free trial with offer code macOSKen at try.copilot.money/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by Squarespace. Get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain with offer code macOSKen at squarespace.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, macOSken at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macosken.com. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.